Welcome to the Emerald Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Chrissy Doyle, and on this podcast I speak to different Irish athletes about their highs, their lows, biggest battles, biggest successes, and why they fell in love with their sport.
In this episode, I chat to Irish mountain runner Enda Cloake. We chat about the challenge of mountain running, the volunteers to keep the sport going, the Slaney Olympic Club, and so much more. Without further ado, Enda Cloake.
Enda, how are you? You're very welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. It's great to be on.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. Haven't had anybody from the athletics side yet, so it's great to get someone on to represent that. Because I do a few 5 and 10K myself, but the idea of running up mountains is just something that has never really occurred to me. Sounds a bit tough for me.
Well, yeah, it's tough in its own right. You know, like a lot of mountain runners would find the road and track stuff hard and vice versa, but a lot of it comes down to what you're used to. Like if you're not used to running up mountains or trails, it's going to be hard because you're using a lot of different muscles and it's stuff that you haven't really done before. But I think it's hard in its own right, you know.
Yeah. And would you train, I suppose, I know you do the practice or whatever, but would you do gym work or little things to strengthen up muscles of, you know, what you're using for, or would it just be practice running up mountains and stuff?
For the winter, it's kind of harder to get out all the time, you know, because we've had a lot of storms recently. So a lot of the trails are in bad condition, trees are falling down, car parks close here when it gets dark. So a lot of time you can't really get out. So I try and compensate then in the gym. I use the uphill treadmill, use some, you know, do a bit of plyometrics, a bit of S&C as well during the winter when you just can't really get out. I think using that when you can't do as much outside kind of keeps you tipping over until the nice weather of summer when you can do more running and maybe less in the gym.
Yeah, just a mixture of both. And how did you get into it, Enda? I'm fascinated by this because I know from being back home, like GAA was easy to get into, soccer, rugby, they were talked about, lots of people, but how do you end up getting into mountain running?
Well, that's where my background was. Like I was playing for the Shells. Like I was kind of all set for a career in GAA. And then once I finished school, then I went off to the Navy. I was down in Cork, and you can't play hurling football when you're at sea, you know, for 4 weeks at a time. But we had a treadmill that was bolted into the ground and a bike as well, so I was able to keep up running. And then once I finished up, I moved from the Navy. I went to the Air Corps just around the same time as COVID, and there was no road racing going on. But I was based in West Dublin, and it's easy to get to all the trails and the mountains in Wicklow. So because there was nothing else going on, there's no road racing, nothing on the track, there's none of that. And the mountain and trail running races were the only thing that could really go ahead. So just to kind of keep myself busy, that's what I did. And it was probably April 2021 when I did my first one. And I just thought it was great. You know, it's completely different from road and the track. Pace is kind of go out the window. It's, you know, it's a bit more enjoyable than looking at, you know, a 400-meter tartan track or tarmac for however long you're racing. And I kind of kept it up then, you know, and then when road racing came back, I just didn't really have an interest in it. You know, I was happy enough to stay on the trails. And then I made my first Irish team then late on in 2021, a race over in Italy. And from there I said, yeah, I'm 100% going full in on the trails, kind of give up the road running then, and I've focused on it since then.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I couldn't even, obviously if you get into it, as you said, but I can't even imagine starting off. I suppose the mental battle for myself, thinking how tough it must be. And I know in your travels as well, you went up to, I think I read there, the French Alps and stuff like that. Like psychologically getting yourself ready for that, it must be really tough, but enjoyable to be able to go and experience and, you know, do different trails like that must be amazing as well.
Yeah, what I found is the competition is class. You know, like some places over in Europe, France, Italy, Spain, maybe Switzerland, they take it so seriously, and it's great crack. You know, it's like if you're playing for hurling club in France, and then you go over here and you're playing Croke Park or something. It's just a completely different atmosphere. You know, it's deadly. So, regarding the whole mental kind of challenges, like it's kind of easy to forget about it when you're racing because you're kind of in the moment and lots of other like good runners there and crowds are there and there's a bit of crack. But it's it's a small bit easier than like road running because with the road running it gets a bit like boring. A lot of tarmac, a lot of the same scenery. But the trails, like you're up 1 minute, you're down 1 minute, you're in a forest, then you're going through a field or you're going through rocks. So it kind of looks after itself from that point of view. Like you don't really notice time going by in these big races.
Yeah, I know what you mean because when you're even, I know for going, not like yourself now, but going for a short jog, if you're on a main road, it's the same thing all the time. But if I suppose if you're going up, as you say, up a trail, there's just so much more kind of, I suppose, going on to keep you entertained while you're doing it. Um, and going up, because you said rocks there and stuff, is that difficult again or something you get used to, the different ground and stuff going because it's not on a flat, let's say, that you'd be on the road. What's that kind of like?
That usually comes down to practice. Like the first time you're running, especially downhill, you run a small bit faster and you're trying to move around the rocks. That takes a bit of time to get used to. But like after, like it's like riding a bike. The first few times you're doing it, you're a bit kind of shaky. You have to think about it. But after a while, it just becomes second nature. Especially going downhill, you can kind of shut off a bit. And like after a while, your legs just know where to go. So you don't need to think about where to put the foot or moving over the route or moving over the rock there. It kind of comes second nature.
Unbelievable. Yeah, you just build up the practice, as you said, just to get used to it. And I don't. I obviously want to mention this the end as well. Incredible achievement. You must have great pride or be very proud when you won Mountain Runner of the Year. Great accomplishment to get.
Yeah, like it was a bit of a shock. It was never something that I went out to try and win. But last year was just like by luck. Maybe it was a really good year. I had some good races come up. I was able to do most races I wanted to. I had the European Championships in end of May, start of June. That was over in Annecy in France, and I did quite well there. Then when I came back, I had some sky running races. I was over in Wales. I won the Irish Sky Running Championships here. I won the British and Irish Championships. Went over to Spain then for the World Skyrun Championships. I was 12th in that, so I kind of built on the good performance from the Euros, and rather than kind of take the foot off the pedal and take a break, I kind of tried to keep racing with that fitness, and I got some good results. I gave a lot back to the Mountain Run Association as well. Like I did a bit of volunteering, got involved with the juniors as well, and like none of it was done to try and win Mountain Runner of the Year. It was just good that people saw the effort and saw that I was doing something for the sport. And yeah, look, it was a great event. And when you look at people who've won it in the past, like Zach Hanna, he's been fifth in the world, he's been fifth in Europe. Sarah McCormick as well, like she was eighth last year in the Euros. Like really good caliber of people have won it. So it's nice to have my name up there with them as well.
Yeah, just an incredible achievement. And, as you said, just even for me listening from the outside in, it's such a tough challenge to do that sport. So to get recognition for it and win it it's just an amazing achievement. And Enda, just as well, just when you mentioned so many places that I suppose you've went on trails and done, is there any place that stuck out for you on your travels that you just thought when you were doing it, you said, wow, this is unreal, or is just all of them come together just so amazing?
I think they're good for different reasons. I was over in I raced in Austria maybe 3 years ago, and the drive from Munich airport down into the south of Austria, it was about 4 or 5 hours. But the scenery that you see is something you'd never come across here, and the race itself, unbelievable. You're going across snow-capped peaks, and the wildlife there as well. Like ibex is going around, marmots going around, like stuff you never see here. It's class. Um, but the European racing is really a different level. Anything in Italy, Switzerland, Austria, it's class. The scenery, the people there, like the people there love it like we would love GA. It's their like national sport. The villages come out, all the towns are out, people are outside their houses, flags at the windows, like they just love it. So it's that kind of atmosphere that I love more so than the scenery.
Unbelievable, yeah. Geez, being able to see all that is just incredible. And would you get to make a holiday of it then, Enda? Like, would you get to go and compete and go around and see it a bit, or would you be just in for the competition, appreciate the scenery and all about it, and then you're back home, or what way does it usually work for you?
I would I would try to make a bit of a holiday out of it. Now, usually you probably wouldn't get to do much before the race because you want to kind of mind yourself, but afterwards, yeah, like last year I was racing the World Sky Running Championships in Spain, and myself and Matthew McConnell, we went out for a week before and made a bit of a holiday out of it. Like we had kind of 5 days to ourselves, and then we flew out there on the Monday. The opening ceremony was on the Thursday. So between Monday and Thursday, we're kind of doing what we kind of want to do. Do a bit of sightseeing. We had a car rented as well, so we can go around. And like you're usually racing in places you'd never end up going on holidays. They're away from the main airports, the main cities, and you never even know these places exist. So it's nice to, while you're over there, be able to see a bit more than just a race.
Yeah, and I think that works out better. I much prefer that because if you go to book a holiday, as you just kind of said, that you go to the main cities or the main place, but the fact you've got to do a bit of traveling and go to places that are on the outskirts, let's say, that's unreal. Something you wouldn't do only for you got to go there. So that's unreal. I want to move you on, Enda, because I really want to talk about Slaney Olympic Club to you. Just I suppose talk me through what it's like to be part of the club, the training like, the crack, the camaraderie. What's that like?
Yeah, so I've been with Slaney since maybe 2017. I was doing a bit of running in school, and I joined a different club in Wexford, and it just wasn't really suiting me. They were very like singular minded. They just want you to run and that's it. And I was playing football, I was playing hurling, I was doing soccer as well, and they didn't really like that. And it kind of turned me off the sport. And then I wasn't going to training, I wasn't good in races, and I had a really bad race. It was a county novice road race, about 6K, and I thought I could win it, and I was probably in form, but it just didn't happen on the day. A little bit upset about it. I thought, maybe run isn't for me. And then one of the guys from Slaney, Paul Murphy, he was chatting to me afterwards, and he said, "What's the story like? I had a bad day." And I said, "Oh, it's you know this other club. They have me on this program and like this diet, and they won't let me go hurling train, and they won't let me go to the gym, whatever." And Paul said, "Look, you can call up to us. No pressure at all. There's a track there. Most of the guys can run anyway. You can do what you want. But if you want to keep running and do your own thing, do your hurling, do your football as well, then there's a place for you here." So I called up, and Paul was there, absolute gentleman, and Sean Crotty was there as well, who I kind of knew from running. And first session there, I said, yeah, like this is the kind of setup I want. No pressure, you can do what you want. The support is there if you need it. Great facilities, the track, the guys go out on the road as well. Enniscorthy to Oil Gate, like that road is nice there for long runs and whatnot. And I thought, yeah, this is probably the club for me. So I've been with him since, and then even since I moved up to Dublin, I still been with the club. Now it's harder to get down for training, but um, any of the county races, I'll always come back for. So I've been back for the senior road race, senior cross country. I've won the last three of them. So it's always nice to come back, even if I can't go training, just come back and still do the races with them.
Incredible, yeah. And you've won the last three. Geez, you're really killing it. That's unreal. And like, is there a good? I know you said you're up in Dublin now, but would you get a good kind of vibe and feeling around the club that people are very together? Kind of very passionate about it because I know you're in a team of 15 with the GA club, but I suppose it's more individual for running and stuff. What's that kind of like?
Yeah, like it's individual when you compete, but there are a lot of training groups up in Slaney. Like whatever kind of distance you want to do, your ability, there's loads of groups up there, so it's good for anyone. So look, if someone wanted to join a club based around Enniscorthy, it would be a good one to do. They have all the track there, even if you want to do throws, jumps, they have all the facilities there. Different training groups based on what you want to do, and look, they're training most days of the week, so it's a really good kind of group to get in with. It's not as individual as you think. If you're not really if you're used to run on your own and you want something different, especially when it's dark so early, then there are plenty of groups up there that you can get involved with.
Excellent. It's a great outlet to have for people as well, and young people to get involved in running and stuff like that. How would you think? Because sometimes I feel, I definitely felt this from when I was younger, that maybe getting into running could have benefited me a lot for other sports and different things like that. How do you think? What's the best way to get, I suppose, more young kids maybe, or more people involved in running? Do you think, Enda?
Well, there's so much competition, because like I was doing as well. I was playing hurling, football, soccer, tennis, badminton. I was sailing. I was doing everything, and there doesn't seem to be a good kind of link between like junior runners and senior runners. Like you're doing under 16 races, under 17s, under 18s, and you're doing quite well, and then you make the big jump up to the adult grades. Whereas with likes of soccer, like you've from say like under 13s, 14s, 15s, and then you've like B teams, C teams, D teams of big clubs. So you're kind of always in the same level of competition. Whereas when running, there is that bigger kind of jump. So I think clubs need to be more accommodating of people who are making that jump from like teenagers into adults, and be a bit more cautious about the races they go into, the expectations of them. Like if you're used to winning races when you're 17 or 18, like going into adult grades is a huge jump. And then people like they're not winning races, they're maybe mid pack or towards the back, and they think, well, this isn't for me, and then they kind of tend to drop off. So clubs need to be in the loop, just to maybe keep an eye on them going forward, make sure they're looked after, they're doing races they want to do, they still find the fun, and it's not too serious.
Yeah, it's amazing there's no intermediate. You know the way you said there's a junior and a senior. It's amazing that there's no intermediate, or nobody has mentioned it or kind of set it up. I find that remarkable.
Yeah, like even an under 21 or an under 23, just to bridge that gap would be huge, because like going from an 18-year-old going against like fully grown men who've been racing hard for 15, 20 years, loads of experience. It's a huge step.
Unbelievable. And because we were even saying the link with GA, imagine go every minor in GA going to senior almost.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like imagine that everyone had to do that. Sure, most people would give up. Like you're
yeah,
saying, sure, how
yeah.
could you keep it up? That's I can't believe that. That's definitely something that needs to be fixed, or sorted, because it's going to be very hard to keep so many people in. And as you say, if you're in the mindset that I'm winning all the time or I'm doing really well, you'll definitely feel really down. If nobody's putting their arm around you or kind of coach and you're getting in around you, you're definitely going to feel, oh, this is not for me anymore. I'll go do something else. Yeah, definitely. That makes so much sense to me why that happened. Now that you say it. Um, and to talk to me about your training plan, I'm very, very intrigued to know. Like, would you do running each day? Would you go full belt, or would you kind of take it easier? What would kind of a week look like for you in training?
The week would be 7 days training. I'd try to double maybe 2 or 3 days. So that's maybe half an hour in the morning and 40 minutes in the afternoon. It just kind of breaks up the day. Like if I have a busy day in work, I know I'm going to be finished late. It's very hard to get out and do 90 minutes. But it's easier to get out if you've only 40, because you've done 40 that morning. There's a bit of gym in there as well, maybe 2 or 3 days a week. I probably have strides and drills maybe 2 days a week, usually the same day as a session. Sessions probably twice a week, and one long run. It's very simple. A lot of people overcomplicate things. Like there's so much online with all this, like all these sessions, the VO2 max, all the super shoes and the supplements and the drills, and like what sessions, Jakob Brixton doing, and what sessions are the Kenyans doing. I think people just overcomplicate it. If you can run every day and you run within yourself, you're not redlining every week, and you can stay consistent. You can do it every week for 2, 3, 4 months. That's really where you'll get on. Like this day of one huge session, great session, but you're wrecked for the next 4 days. Like that just doesn't cut it. But staying consistent, that is really where you're going to get better.
Yeah, I find that funny as well that it is just running or competing or training all the time, and people always look for the supplements, the kind of the flashy Instagram and TikTok things that you'll see as if that's the cure. I see a lot of that across all sports really now. Which is disappointing, obviously. And do you do much for recovery and stuff? Because I suppose if you're doing trails and doing running, I don't do long runs myself, but I take it recovery is quite important.
Yeah, it is. I'm not into all the ice baths and the recovery boots. I just don't really see the benefit in that. I would focus more on fueling, which is something a lot of, especially ultra runners, they don't do. This day of trying to be as light as you can, fast to train, all this, it just comes back to bite you. And a very good friend of mine, we were training together for the World Championships, the World Mountain Running Championships in Innsbruck in 2023, and he had a huge focus on faster training, getting light, being as light as you can, because if you're light going up the trails, it's a lot easier. And then we were due to fly out, and 10 days before we were flying out, he got a stress fracture, and that was the championships over. So trying to save yourself half a kilo, maybe 1 kilo, it ended up costing him the whole championship. So I would much rather put emphasis on fueling, eating right, fueling post and pre-session, and then you're feeling better for the next session, rather than trying to run fasted or like not eating at all, and then you're trying to stretch too much, or you're trying to kill yourself on the foam roller, or hopping in the normal tech boots, or doing this, cold plunges or whatever. I think people overcomplicate it. You know, best recovery is just eating enough, and and fuel the sessions that you're doing. Rather than looking at all these external factors of the stretching and the foam roller and the massage guns and all this kind of stuff. I think it's all just marketed. It's all marketing, but just eat enough, especially carbohydrates. Eat plenty, and you'll have no issue. You'll be feeling much better after your session, and in a much better place for your next session. I think that for me is the key to recovering, especially on double days or long runs or heavy weeks of training. It's so important to fuel.
I couldn't agree with you more, and it's just getting a sports star beside one of the marketing tools, as you said, whether it's the massage gun or whatever, and then everyone thinks that's the fix. It is amazing. And when you said about fueling, would you go keep your solid routine of the way you'd fuel, or for like let's say the week of a championship or a competition run, would you kind of up the carbs or kind of change it a bit, or is it just routine first with your nutrition?
It is mainly routine. Now, I would up the carbs a small bit, but when you're kind of tapering for a big race, if you race on a Saturday, well, your training on the Friday will be lighter. Your training on the Thursday will be a bit lighter as well, and the Wednesday will be light as well. So, like if you're still eating as much as you were when you're training hard Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then you're probably eating too much, because now you're not burning like all those calories in the easy days of training Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it's fairly similar, maybe a slight uptake of carbs, but it's nothing drastic. What I don't want is to have huge changes of 72 hours out. The whole diet flips on its head, because you'll get issues with that. So I keep it fairly similar, small uptake in carbs, a small decrease in fiber, and that's me. But keep it very simple.
Yeah, it sounds so much into what you've said to me about even your training, your nutrition. Everything is just consistency, simple consistency, really, and you can get the same and great results. Basically, is what you're saying. Which is so much true. That I think if everybody kind of took that on board and went with that, they'd have a much improved in performance as well. And talk to me about any competitions coming up soon, or I suppose what might be the aim for you? Is there any competition you're eyeing up or anything like that coming up soon?
Yeah, well, there's always loads of racing going on. I did nearly 30 races last year across road, trail, all kinds of distances. So there's always some kind of race going on. But the main one would be the trial race for the Irish team for the World Championships. So the World Championship this year will be in September, end of September in Canfranc in Spain. So we'll have a trial race in May. That's it's up in the Mournes in Down. So that's going to be 50k with about 3,500 meters of climbing. And the Mournes, it's really slow. It's so technical. It's really kind of hard running. It's not fast at all. There's no kind of runnable bits. So that's the main focus. And then I have European Skyrunning Championships in Italy in July. And then hopefully I've made the World Mountain Running team for the September Championship. That will be the big one. That's probably the biggest race of the year. The World Championships are every 2 years. So I had a bit of a shocker now 2 years ago in Austria. So I'm looking for a bit of redemption now for this one in September.
Yeah, it's on the mind to get it going again. I couldn't help put my hand to my face there. 50k with an incline. I just can't. I know you're saying you get used to in practice, but I just can't get my head around it. And would there be many going up to Down? How many would probably participate in that? Then Enda, would there be many across? Would there be 100? Would there be more? How many would participate?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how popular the races are up north, but down here, like last year, the ultra trial race was in Wicklow, the Morris Mullins 50k, and there was nearly 400 people. I think there was 387 people who were registered, and maybe 350 show up. So they are getting very popular.
Excellent, yeah. No, it's great to see because I feel as well that, as I said before, like I love GA soccer and rugby, but that's got lots of popularity. But something like this where it takes such energy, such endurance, such a work rate and so much to practice to actually do it, like it's such an achievement to win it or even compete and finish it. It definitely deserves more recognition, and it's great to see that the numbers are going up, for it as well, because I'd say even across Ireland, because I know we spoke about France and Italy, I'd say that the trails and everything across Ireland, sometimes we wouldn't appreciate it because maybe that's where we're from, but I'd say it's amazing some of the trails you'd even see in Ireland.
Yeah, and I think more people are getting into it. I've been training pretty much same places since I moved to Dublin in 21, and every year the car parks get busier. There's more people out, so people are taking more of an interest, either walking or training or whatever. But people are looking at like what's around them, the forests around them, trails around them, hills and mountains around them, and people are going there. So it is good to see more people taking a small bit of an interest, and hopefully that'll translate to more people taking up trail running and racing and get a bit of a buzz that way.
Yeah, no, it's amazing to see. And I think people just even running in general is great. But as you say, you made a great point with the road that if you go to the forest trails and stuff like that, it actually could be easier in ways because you've stuff around you to distract you and stuff to see, and you can go within a group. And you even mentioned Slaney Olympic, having the group sessions, and then you could go off and do your trails together in nearly a social environment, which is unreal too. And will be great to see more people do that. I actually might give it a try myself, even though I'm kind of not shaking is not the word, but when you mention 50k in an incline, it just, I don't know, my legs start to go a bit on me, but that's just me anyway. But yeah,
People are people are too scared, and if you listen to coaches in clubs, they'll say, don't run trails, you'll get injured, you'll get slow, and you just won't like it. But can't be further from the truth. Like there are guys I'm training with who are well under 50 minutes for 5k, low 60 half marathons, low 220 marathons. Like they're not slow at all. And this idea of getting injured, I would probably argue that it's easier to get injured on the road because you're using the same muscles, you're hurting the same joints repetitively over and over again. Like if you're running on the road, it's the same movement, using the exact same muscles from start to finish. Or at least on the trails, if you're going uphill, there's no impact on the joints because you're not landing hard. So you're using different muscles than going downhill. And you can give like working muscles a bit of a break then. So it's not the same fatigue, the same muscles working all the time. And like no one's saying you have to do your first run as a 50k, you go out for 20 minutes, like 30 minutes, there's loads of places you can go to. But people are a bit maybe scared of it. Like they see like the big UTMB races, all this kind of stuff. But You don't have to do that, you know.
Yeah. You can just go and take it easy or do a simple 5k or something like that. And is there any handy places or nice places, you know, around even for listeners where in Ireland that it'd be nice kind of track to do, not too difficult even maybe to start off, that you'd know of? Is there any place that springs to mind straight away? You might not be able to think now, but
Well, for training wise, any Quilcha first, they're always good. You know, they usually have good car parks, good tracks. They're usually kind of fire road, so it's not too different from a road surface. You know, small bit gravelly, but it's not open mountain. They usually have way marked routes, so you can follow signs. You know, it's very easy to stay on track. You're not going to get lost. But for racing, if you look at Irish Mountain Run Association, they have a website for all their races, and like there's loads of information on what the race is. It gives you the distance, it gives you the elevation. You can look at previous times to see like what kind of times are people running in. You know, is it going to be like a half-hour race? Is it going to be a 4 or 5 hour race? And you can base it off there. You know, but there's loads of places that you can have these races and have these trainings on, but people don't really know about it. But when it comes to the Irish Mountain Running Association, they're all volunteers. So people are pushing for the races in their area. So if you're living in Wicklow, there's loads of races around where you are in Wicklow because the volunteers who also live there are pushing for their races, you know. So there's races up and down the country. There's a Munster committee as well to push for races down there. There's a Northwest committee push for races up around, you know, Sligo, Roscommon, Leitrim, and there's loads around Dublin, Wicklow, all Leinster area. So there's any amount of places to choose from, and there's probably somewhere close by if you can just find it.
it's great to see that so many people are just volunteering as well to get these races going and get more people involved because I would assume that, you know, the Irish Sports Council or someone will be paying people to kind of, you know, look after these races and get them together. But the fact that it's a volunteer effort just makes me feel, I suppose, so much appreciation for those people that give up the time. And you said before as well that, you know, you've given up your time to kind of make sure that some of those are done as well. I think that's unbelievable, but definitely they need to do something more maybe to help with it. If you can't always rely, I suppose, on volunteers, they're great to get, but you'd definitely like to see a little bit more maybe funding or something for it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, we would like more funding, but it's nice to see these races organised by people who have an interest. Like I've been to races and I paid big money, and they wouldn't have volunteers. They'd have like paid stewards and people on the course, you know, to like marking the course or giving directions and whatnot. And they don't really care. And I've had times where I've been at like a junction and I'm asking the marshal like, which way do I go? Do I go left or right? And they don't even know because they don't really care. They're just getting paid to be there, so they have no interest. Whereas at least with the volunteers with IMRA, they actually care. So they will make sure the course is marked, all the boxes are ticked because they've been in that situation in the past where things haven't been done right and it's gone wrong for them, or when things have been done right, how fun and how easy it makes the whole experience. So maybe similar to the GA, it's nice to have some income coming in, but at the end of the day, it's it's more important to have people who are passionate about it and who actually like it and who want to see the sport like grow for themselves, not because someone's paying them.
Yeah, that's a great point, Enda, as well. And it is great to see the volunteers do it. I think it's still crazy that the stewards or the person that came across, you must have been so frustrated not being able to tell you which direction to go. That would drive you mad.
Yeah, and like when you're racing at the top end and there are like big championships at stake and like marshals aren't at turnaround points or they're not at junctions or they're sending you the wrong way, it can get quite frustrating, especially when there's money involved. Like they're getting paid for that,
Yeah,
you know. But with the volunteers with IMRA, if it's lashing rain outside or it's snowing or it's late through the night or it's early morning, they'll still be there. And the advice and the job that they would do is far better than the people who are getting paid. In my experience, and look, I've done plenty of races in Ireland, who are ran by like private companies or who are ran by IMRA, and it's always IMRA who have by far the best experience with the races. People are much nicer because they want to be there, and that really filters down then to the race itself.
Unbelievable. I think, you know what, the more I hear you talk about it, I think it's actually a great tradition, and maybe it should stay that way, the way you're talking about it. And you just hope that, like I see in GA, the volunteers have died off a bit. You just be hope that the volunteers keep coming and they can keep on supporting it and keep, you know, the races going, because, you know, it's such a lovely thing. And you say Wicklow, Dublin and all those places that it's happening. It'd be great to see more people, as you say, keep joining each year and for to keep going. It would definitely be great. Enda, I want to thank you for coming on to the podcast. It's been great to get... It's an eye-opener for me anyway to hear about mountain running, and I'm not as scared as I was at the start of the podcast anyway, which is a good thing. Congratulations on all you've achieved, Mountain Runner of the Year. You're definitely an inspiration, definitely to a lot of people, definitely to get started and to do it. And I just hope that more awareness can come to it and more people can get involved and start running.
Yeah, and just to add on that, if it is something that you'd like to get interested in, there's loads of resources there available, and IMRA is probably the best place to start. There's a forum site on there. Any questions that you want to ask away, and there'll always be someone there to answer it. And it's a very inclusive place. You know, all types of abilities, all catered for there. So if you are maybe apprehensive about starting, that's probably a good place to start with.
Perfect. I'll make sure to put a link for that at the bottom of the podcast now so people can click in and have a look as well. That's great. Enda, thanks very much.
Pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. Cheers.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the Emerald Athlete podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to leave a review, and don't forget to check out our Instagram page, the Emerald Athlete Podcast.